Now my pleasant duty to introduce Peter Murray, who's going to compare the award ceremony. Peter was my second editor on building design back in the 1970s, and so our paths have sort of crossed or run in parallel for, well, actually 5 decades now, I'm rather embarrassed to realise. Peter, amongst other things, is now chairman of the NLA in the Store Street, which has become this terrific centre for the built environment, not just about architecture, but about the whole way in which London is thinking about itself. And not least of Peter's attributes and achievements, which some of you will know about, is the extraordinary efforts he's made through cycling to raise money for ME charities and other things. And I think his kind of ultimate mission, which has a sort of RIBA connection, he was editor of the RIBA Journal at one time, is going to take place next summer, when he undertakes a cycling sponsorship, well, more than a marathon, because it's going from Portland, Oregon, to Portland Place, London West 1. If you want to know more about it, and indeed to contribute to it, there is a website, www.portlandtoportland.org. Please welcome Peter Murray.
Yes, thank you very much, Paul. And anyone wants to ride along with us? It's 6,000 kilometres to ride and 2 months, 10 days to get from one end to the other. And one of the things we're doing is actually researching what is happening in cities across 2 continents, the impact that cycling is having on the quality of life in cities. And we're getting together professionals, construction professionals, architects, planners, en route to help us give some sort of idea of what is changing in cities across the continent, because we feel that as construction professionals, who many of you represent here today or report about, we have a responsibility to look at the way cities are being shaped in the future. Because, as Daniel said, cities are important. The incubators of civilization, I think you called them, Daniel. Absolutely right. And we've heard, you probably hear it 6 times every day, because every conference I go to, somebody says this. Over 50% of the world's population now lives in cities. I mean, that is the way it is, and cities are the things that are changing, not just the way we live, but also the way we publish, because, as I'm sure you all know, UBM has set up the Future Cities online community. Although I would just say to them that they've committed the cardinal sin of having an internet which they don't keep up to date. It says, even as you look today, it will launch in October 2012. But don't they realise that in that time, over 500,000 more people will have moved into cities just in the time they've taken to update the date. No wonder Giles Barry's going off to FTI. And also, of course, World Architecture News has set up World Cities Network, another way of getting into this whole network of how cities are changing the way we live. And I've just been sitting on the ACOM table and hearing about all sorts of interesting plans about looking at the way that cities there are changing the way we look at the way the world works. So we're hoping to take, by cycling through them, we experience cities, and we've got Kjell architects from Copenhagen advising us how best to research things. And we will come back, and just before Boris's Festival of Cycling next year, we will report on our findings of all the cities we've gone through. And I think that one of the interesting things is that a lot of people said, why cycle across America? It's just full of cars, isn't it? But actually, they are doing things in America which we are taking twice as long to do. They have governance, which actually is a sort of thing, leadership which Daniel has provided in Kensington and Chelsea that actually delivers stuff. So New York has delivered new cycling infrastructure and improvements to public spaces in the city that it's taken many cities 5 times longer to deliver. Copenhagen's been at it 40 years, and quite frankly, I don't want to hang around for another 40 years while London gets up to the sort of level that Copenhagen is, because when I come back from going across America, we want to make sure that we can help advise TfL and all those people delivering change in London how to do it better. Anyway, this whole change in the nature of the way that we deal with publishing is something which is making your lives, at least those people in the audience who are involved with publishing, just so much more exciting, really. Everyone's got apps, and a lot of you now have got tablets. Some are marrying digital with print, and I don't know how many of you bought the Top Gear magazine last year, which actually it had augmented reality on every page. You could actually just click your iPhone and get streaming videos related to the content in there. And I'm surprised that I haven't seen that appearing in some of the architectural magazines, because I think that sort of relationship of still photo to movies would be a fantastic ability to provide. And there are all sorts of ways that today magazines are having to work very hard to keep pace with the ever-expanding digital market. And I actually went on a tweet-up with Building Design down in Winchester a couple of months ago. So it's the first time I'd done a tweet-up, and before I went there I didn't know what it was. But it was just a party, really, but it was good fun. More of those, I think. I'm a great supporter of more parties. And but I think these things reflect the rich tapestry of today's publishing industry, and I think nothing explains better the way that things are changing than to read Ollie Wainwright's responses to the comments that he gets in The Guardian. I mean, amazing patience that he can go through all those responses and still reply intelligently and also politely to the sorts of things that people say. So I think, we're in a changing world, and but we have to remember that actually what we're really interested in is the content. That's what we're here tonight to talk about. The content is key, its style, its quality, its impact, its relevance. And we're here tonight to celebrate the best of that. So welcome to the 39th, gosh. I was there probably the second, maybe not the first, but it does seem a long time ago. Anyway, 39th, IBP, National Journalism Awards, established specifically to recognise and reward good journalism by members of the press writing on the built environment. Brought to you for the 5th year in association with Resolution Property, who we should all give them a round of applause for their generosity. And we move on to our first category of awards, and the first one, A, is for architecture, and this is for the Architectural Writer of the Year, sponsored by the Society of British Interior Design. And the judges said it was interesting to note that the submissions this year came purely from architectural titles, perhaps reflecting the diminishing space allocated to architectural matters in the national press. Nevertheless, it was a strong category with varied and lively approaches and points of view. William Curtis of Architectural Review is shortlisted because the judges felt impressed with William's courage and no-nonsense approach to famous architects and their reputations. The judges felt that Oliver Wainwright's building design submissions displayed an authoritative grasp of some well-judged subjects with a perceptive, balanced approach. They also noted he used a lively writing style that presented well-paced arguments which allowed his subjects to speak, but left the reader in no doubt about Oliver Wainwright's own position. And then in shortlisting Architects Journal's Rory Olcato, the judges felt that Rory's submissions were fresh and original, both in topic and method. They said his personality shone through his writing immensely. Also shortlisted is Steve Parnell, writing for Building Design, Architecture Today and Architects Journal, and the judges were impressed by the way Steve's articles dealt effortlessly with complex issues rooted in significance and non-London-centric context. Not quite sure what that bit means, but anyway. So, Daniel, would you please open the envelope and tell us who the winner is?
Right. Now, this is the bit that requires manual dexterity. And the winner is Oliver Wainwright. Building Design.
So would Vanessa Brady, President of the Society of British Interior Design, come up to present the cheque? The next award is for the Sustainable Journalist of the Year, sponsored by ACOM. The entries covered a vast spectrum of subjects and a range of approaches on this topic. As a result, the entries demonstrated the complexity of the sustainability agenda. They highlighted the fact that sustainability is not clearly enough defined and covers a multitude of interpretations. In shortlisting Vern Pitt of Building, the judges noted that his articles demonstrated the ability to handle both hard news and features-led coverage, and the judges particularly liked his writing style. The judges also liked the way Nick Duxbury of Inside Housing investigated key weaknesses in government policy on solar panels, which was highly relevant to readers. Inside Housing claimed that its campaign was responsible for changing government policy. Jess McCabe, also of Inside Housing, impressed the judges with her great writing style and in-depth knowledge of the sustainability agenda and how it affects the social housing market. Her case study plans on a model village in Derwentthorpe, Yorkshire, brought out a key problem of government policy where a great idea for sustainable low-cost housing still takes 10 years for something to happen because of local opposition, the judges commented. Daniel, could you open the envelope and tell us who the winner is?
And the winner is Jess McCabe, Inside Housing.
So could I ask Celeste Morgan, Head of Sustainability ACOM, to present the cheque?
Not actually here.
So that was Stuart MacDonald who received the cheque rather than Jess. Now we move on to News Reporter of the Year, sponsored by Land Securities. The judges said this was another hotly contested year, with the judges arguing fiercely over recommendations. The spread of news and the way in which this created a profile in the national press shows how good a job the building press's news teams do. News reporters are still setting the agenda and getting into the right place at the right time, asking the tough questions, digging around and coming up with the goods. A fantastic effort, the judges said. They shortlisted Deirdre Hipwell of The Times for her good old-fashioned scoops, which produce must-read stories for the whole industry and a wide range of audiences. Inside Housing's Martin Hilditch is shortlisted for his detailed, dogged investigations involving effective use of freedom of information legislation, while Alistair Heyman of Building showed great tenacity, inside knowledge and all the professionalism that you would expect of the best news editing on an established trade magazine. Daniel, can you tell us who's won?
And the winner is Alistair Heyman of Building.
So would Donald McCabe, Director of Corporate Communications, Land Securities, come up to the stage to present the cheque, please? Next is Feature Writer of the Year, sponsored by the Chartered Institute of Building. The judges were pleased with the number of submissions this year. The spread of articles was broad and covered a range of relevant and important subjects, including investigations that matter to the industry as well as wider audiences. It was pleasing to see publishers supporting investigations that focused on subjects that really mattered. The judges shortlisted Martin Hilditch of Inside Housing because he is an investigative journalist who's not afraid to criticise policy decisions on matters of safety and sustainability. Martin Hansford of New Civil Engineer is shortlisted for his ability to make complex technical subject matter widely accessible. And the judges also shortlisted Lydia Stockdale of Inside Housing and they saw her as a journalist who enjoys taking on difficult subjects with a strong and confident style. The judges praised Will Hurst of Building for his dedicated desire to create the best possible articles, and the judges enjoyed his articles where the content gave a critical edge. All three pieces were pitched and written with consistency and supported by well-researched investigation, one judge said. Daniel, can you tell us who the winner is?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, almost got it. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner is Will Hurst of Building.
And Michael Brown, Deputy Chief Executive, Chartered Institute of Building, will present the cheque.
Big surprise, make me feel good. And you might want to smile, smile, smile. Don't you let your demons pull you down, 'cause you can have it all. You can have it all.
And that wasn't Michael Brown who gave the cheque, it was the president of CIOB, I'm pleased to be able to announce. So now on to Business Financial Journalist of the Year, sponsored by Resolution Property. This year's entries were filled with high-quality journalism, making the judging process very difficult. It was pleasing to see newswires competing with national newspapers against trade magazines and all expanding the choice of high-standard journalism available. Last year's winner, Property Week's James Whitmore, is shortlisted for his rare interview with Peel Holdings' John Whittaker that gave an insight into this northern veteran. Property Week's Mike Phillips is praised for his focus on some of the major issues facing the property industry. his revelation of the FSA's concern over the new slottery rules that would force banks to provide billions of additional capital was a forerunner of a problem that will have major ramifications, said the judges. His interview showed that he can handle micro subjects as well as macro. Nick Johnson, another Property Week journalist, Nick is shortlisted for his insight into the planning difficulties that are delaying the development of Lord's Cricket Ground, which was a highly reasonable piece where he tackled the topical issue of what was going to happen to Lord's, and another article which was about London house prices, where he wrote of the threat to the capital's power supplies, which is an interesting issue that could be topical in the future. So, Daniel, could you tell us who won this category?
Thank you very much. And the winner is Mike Phillips of Property Week.
So would Robert Lawrence of Resolution Property come up to the stage and hand out the cheque, please? Next is Commercial Property Journalist of the Year, sponsored by Savills Commercial. The judges were pleased to see entries from a wide variety of media, including websites. This year, submissions range from specific stories highlighting key issues to entertaining features stylishly written. In shortlisting, James Wallace of Co-Star News, the judges noted that websites' articles can examine issues in depth as well as break news. They were impressed by his extended feature on Lehman Brothers debts, which went into considerable depth, while his reanalysis of other banks' worst-case losses from the crash provided an interesting alternative view to conventional thinking. A newcomer to property journalism, Sarah Townsend of Property Week, praised for having a highly professional look at the industry, and the judges were very interested in her piece on the urban explorer who scales buildings in defiance of the developers, and said it could have appeared in a Sunday colour supplement. Patrick Gower of Property Week also impressed the judges with the wide variety of articles he submitted, from a news story about Vincent Chenguiz to an in-depth feature about shady land deals. On his detailed feature about the resale of a key site in Reading, he not only made a cold litigation dispute into a highly readable story of intrigue, he also pursued it despite the inevitable legal dangers. Daniel, over to you.
Quite right. Well, the winner in this category is Patrick Gower. Property Week.
So Tim Leatham, Director at Savills, will present the cheque. Now we move on to Housing and Residential Journalist of the Year, sponsored by Wilmot Dixon. The judges The judges commented that the top entries were very close in quality and it was difficult to choose between the top two. They felt that the journalists did a good job of going behind the headlines to discover what is really happening. The entries highlighted the continued failings of both political parties to come up with a housing strategy that works. Nick Duxbury of Inside Housing is shortlisted for his ability to dig out stories, proving he is a real news hound. The judges felt he displayed a strong understanding of the sector and delivered real impact to his pieces. Joey Gardner of Building is shortlisted because his articles were a real joy to read. They're classic pieces of writing showing that government policy is in a complete mess. He displayed his excellent writing style, showing an incisiveness that cuts through the confusion, contradictions and conflicts in housing policy. Rhiannon Berry also from Inside Housing is shortlisted because the judges believed that her articles were good enough to warrant an expose in the Nationals. She achieved what every journalist strives for, to write articles where the reader wants to read from beginning to end, said the judges. They admired her clear style and very readable copy, which meant that every word gave the reader an immediate understanding of the issues involved and demonstrated the extensive research that she did. Daniel, who won this category?
Well, Peter, ladies and gentlemen, this category has been won by Rhiannon Berry of Inside Housing.
And Charlie Shearer, Chief Operating Officer of Wilmot Dixon, will present the cheque. Now we get to Young Journalists of the Year, sponsored by the Building Centre. In a category whose small number of entries gave a clear warning of the impact of the current economic downturn in recruiting young journalists, the entries nevertheless showed resourcefulness and a wide variety of subject choices. Property Week's Sarah Stewart and she's shortlisted as the judges felt that her submissions demonstrated originality, breadth, tenacity and courage in tackling complex and controversial issues. Joanna Burke of Estates Gazette is shortlisted because the judges felt she showed a keen eye for a news story and application in delivering results. The judges shortlisted Ian Withers of Building for his good range of skills from news scoops to well-researched features. Daniel, can you announce the winner, please?
The winner of the Young Journalist category is Sarah Stewart of Property Week.
And Jenny Watt, Marketing Director of the Building Centre, will present the cheque. Now we have Multimedia Journalist of the Year, sponsored by IBP. The entries this year for this category confirms that good journalists today are comfortable working appropriately across a range of media. James Wallace of CoStar News. I just feel there are more people from Property Week than there are from Co-Star News here tonight, I think. But nevertheless, James is shortlisted by the judges for his very effective news journalist focused on breaking stories he simply and professionally delivers in a digital environment. Hardeep Sandev, Property Week. Impressed the judges with her work, which engaged with a unique perspective. She has the courage and ability to work across a range of platforms, whether introducing an iPad edition or writing an in-depth and engaging interview with the CEO of the World Trade Center. Daniel, can you tell us?
And the winner is Hardeep Sandha of Property Week.
And Richard Elwin, Managing Director, Elwin Communications, will present the cheque. And now, Magazine of the Year Weekly, sponsored for the 20th consecutive year by Marley Eternit, or Marley Eternit, whichever way you like to say it. And here the jury stressed that to judge a magazine in isolation from its online content is an impossible task today. But with that proviso, and given the industry is suffering from the worst recession since the war, the building press's output is a truly remarkable achievement that bodes well for when better times return. They said the building press is in remarkably good health. In shortlisting Property Week, the judges applauded it for diversifying the nature of its product, bringing invaluable and authoritative insight and content in a truly impressive way. The Architect's Journal is bold, produced with great confidence, and has a great impact. It features lively news, features, and authoritative professional content. The judges salute the clarity of editorial ambition. Inside Housing is also shortlisted by the judges, who were impressed by the magazine's energy, both in its design and content. There is clearly a dedicated team working on this magazine, said the judges. So, Daniel, tell us who won.
Well, the winner of the weekly magazine category is Architect's Journal.
And Paul Reed, Sales and Marketing Director of Marley Eternit, will present the Marley Eternit Cup. And now we move on to Magazine of the Year Non-Weekly, sponsored by Sidell Gibson Architects. And the judges noted that the entries in this year's Magazine of the Year Non-Weekly category covered a good range, from membership magazines to specialist coffee table publications. The entries clearly delivered to their readership, with all nominees having gone through a recent relaunch. The judges were impressed with New London Quarterly, which has a good... Thank you. Which has a good, clear design, photography and graphics with a strong format and a good range of articles. Planning in London. Thank you. Is shortlisted by the judges, who said the magazine always impresses and serves its readership well with good and interesting articles. And the judges applauded Architectural Review. For its consistently good quality with a global reach, achieving what it sets out to do in promoting excellence. Daniel, tell us who is excellent.
Winner in this category is, good God, Peter, New London Quarterly.
Ron Siddell, Senior Partner of Siddell Gibson Architects, will present the certificate. Now we have Digital Service of the Year, sponsored by Aylwin Communications. The judges were impressed by the great diversity of entries this year. Journalistic ability and integrity are two foundations on which imaginative content providers are building to deliver information in appropriate formats and at new frequencies. Dezeen. Is shortlisted due to its exciting and successful site, which presented a progressive direction for a digital publication while informing on new designs in images, video and words. Inside Housing is shortlisted because of its exemplary journalism and the easy-to-navigate site. And the judges felt that the Co-Star News that their new launch was a lean and targeted operation, rapidly building an audience for news bulletins which frequently beat larger competitors. The judges felt Property Week provided a strong base of professional, comprehensive and appropriate news journalism in which it kept up its momentum for innovation. It has added a new iPad edition and launched a daily tablet app, radically enhancing the ways in which readers can receive information. The judges felt that the energy was impressive and look forward to seeing what happens next. So, Daniel, what happens next?
Well, the winner in this category is, ladies and gentlemen, Property Week.
Gerald Bowie, CEO of IBP, will present the cheque. And I would also say that the judges in this category awarded a highly commended certificate to Dezeen. Right, now we get on to the Victor Ludorum, the final award of the evening, the most important accolade a built environment journalist can receive. IBP Journalist of the Year, sponsored by Resolution Property. And by definition, the winners of the individual categories are good, for in choosing an overall winner, the judges were reviewing and selecting the best of the best, and thoroughly enjoyed reading the high standards of journalism that were placed before them. Although the articles covered a diverse range of issues and were aimed at different readerships, the qualities required in good journalism ran through all the pieces. They ranged from investigative reporting to colourful feature writing and breaking news stories, but all showed property publishing at its best. Tonight's overall winner of the IBP Journalist of the Year Award produced a classic piece of investigative journalism, applying hard work and intelligent thinking to ask what happened to the $200 million given by the government to local councils in new home services. It was an example of how to elicit information, check facts, and obtain reactions to the conclusions. It was a job well done. Daniel, who is the Journalist of the Year?
Well, Peter, the highest accolade goes Journalist of the Year to Rhiannon Berry of Inside Housing.
If Robert Lawrence is coming to present yet, but Robert, would you care to say a few words beforehand?
I could do. Hadn't prepared anything, but it's wonderful to be here, and we're delighted to be sponsoring this again for the fourth year. Such a pool of talent, so many really enthusiastic, good journalists who keep us, all of us in the industry, on our toes. And when they announced it was going to be the Young Journalist of the Year, everyone was so young, I assumed that it was kind of almost bedtime, but not that way. Anyway, but we managed to beat the ones are the best. We managed to beat the watershed. Anyway, with that innuendo, I will present the cheque.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daniel, for presenting cheques. I have to say congratulations to all the winners. The only thing I'd say, rather disappointing to note the lack of facial hair on some of the male journalists turning up. It seems that last year's Movember had much greater impact on property writers than it and architectural writers than it has this. So next year, I hope to see very good one there. Yes, stand up, that gentleman. Well, I think the one on the... Very good. Well, if you didn't write that all down, you know where to find him in the bar afterwards. But let's see a better lot of beards or moustaches next year. But anyway, congratulations to everyone who's picked up a prize. And over to you, Gerald, to finalise the evening.
Look, it's been a fantastic evening. Let's end with a couple of notices for our community. Claire Barrett, the London news editor of the Financial Times, gets married at the St Bride's Church on Saturday. Let's give her a welcome for that. Our president, Giles Barry, leaves us in February, but we've still got him to guide us. I have to say his enthusiasm, support and sheer drive is something that I will personally miss, and we all wish him well at FTI. And finally, of course, James Whitmore, who is going to Tavistock. We wish him well. Last announcement. Please open your diaries or whatever it is you put these things in. We are back here to do this all again on the 21st of November 2013. I hope to see you all then. Join me for a drink. The bar is open.